Now some of the word groupings in the passage Chamber of Commerce talks about changes to working patterns. I'm going to present these groupings in sections. You will then be reminded that once you know one grouping, it can easily be adapted when the grouping changes slightly. So for example, we know how to write "we look forward," but can you quickly adapt it to "we look forward to your," or "we look forward to our," "we look forward to hearing," and "we look forward to hearing from you"? "In the first place" comes up here. We've covered that before. But what if the dictation says "in the second place"? Well, then you just change the 1 to a 2. What about if the dictation says "firstly"? Perhaps you would like to write this, and for "secondly," this. But for "first of all," which also comes up here in this passage, write this. Because the word "first" starts the grouping, so it isn't in the grouping. Therefore, it may be more difficult to transcribe. Now let's look at the V, which we know and recognise easily as the special outline for very. It is also, when written under the writing line, the special outline for evident or evidence, but clearly we use very more often. Let's look at V in a grouping. Recently we looked at the grouping "in a vicious circle," and we used the blend of the N and the V, preceded by the I indicator of "in," and we put a circle round it. But let's remember that that V would not be enough to read the word "vicious" unless it was in that very distinctive grouping. It is, however, more commonly used for very and evident or evidence. So let's look at the grouping where the word very can blend with the N to make the NV in groupings which are common in use. So, what about "in a very long time"? In a very short time. In a very short space of time. Now, as we know, groupings can be adapted. The more words in the grouping, the more distinctive the outline, and it allows you therefore to miss some words out. So whilst we may write "in a very short time" in the way I've just done so, once we've got more words in the grouping "in a very short space of time," we may like to reduce "short" from the SH, R and T to just the SH, because I'm sure you'll realise that you could still recognise it. However, as always, if you prefer to use the longer version, then you may do so. So let's adapt it again to "it was a very special time." Now try "in recent times." That hasn't got the NV blend, but that one, "in recent times," does come in this passage. Now the next section. In this passage we have "it is important to say." What we're actually writing is "it is important say." We should know that the special outline IMP is important. The S goes outside the angle between the P and the A indicator. Now, I'm going to include in this grouping other common word groupings like "I am pleased to say," "I am pleased to see." Notice if you haven't got that angle correct, one could be mistaken for the other, although usually the sense of the sentence would tell you which one it is. Now let's adapt that to "I am pleased to tell you." Look how we've used the D of pleased to represent the T of tell. One consonant doing the work of two. Next grouping. We know the word advantage is a special outline. But when we put it in the grouping, take advantage of, we can just use the V. And then when we write take advantage of the opportunity, the O of also does the work of the O of opportunity. Let's have a look at what take the opportunity looks like on its own. And now how it's adapted to change to take this opportunity. We're only going to add the S circle to change the opportunity to this opportunity. So let's do that same thing with take advantage of the opportunity, which we've just looked at. Now change that to take advantage of this opportunity. The next grouping, large number of. Oh, we know this so well, don't we? We don't need the G in large, just the L doubles for R, and then the special outline NO for number, and the special outline O for of, large number of, and then the intersected PL blend for people. Now let's change that to large amount of money. So we're going to retain the LR blend with no G. Then we're going to just put the M halved for T for amount. As you know, amount is a special outline, A indicator, shorter M on the T line. But when it's in the grouping, large amount of money, we don't need that A indicator. And we don't need the of either here. So large amount money. What else could it be? Now let's change that to large sum of money. That seems alien because the S is going outside one of the curves and inside the other, but you'll soon get used to it, and it's an opportunity not to be missed if that grouping comes up. And finally, let's look at 2B. We know we can write it in full, the T and the B, two special outlines joined together. But what when it comes in the phrase, there seems to be? We could change to be from the T and the full B to just the big circle, but it is important you keep that circle large if it's going to say B. So there seems to be. Now let's see if we can change that to be considered. You see there's more words in the grouping, so we need less of the word considered to be able to recognise it. So all we're writing there is to be considered. Or even needs to be considered. Now that is a bit brave. I'm not even sure whether I would do that. I would put needs on its own and to be considered together, as I have done in this passage. But it's up to you to look at it and see, are you brave enough? If you think you can read it back, then of course you can use it. And the final one, used to be. So the D of used is also the T of to, and we put that big circle on the top for B. Isn't T-line great? One more tiny thing that I don't know whether we've met before, and that is the representation of the dash in T-line. I know what you're thinking. Do we need to put it in? The answer is no. You do not need to put it in. As the reader is reading, you wouldn't even know there was a dash there until they've gone past that point, and you would never go back to put something in. So no, you don't need that dash. But I've put it in because it's easier for you to make sense of the passage as you're reading it through. And the dash is like a normal longhand dash, but it's got a little tick either end of it. So if you do see that when you're using printed shorthand in a textbook or in a magazine, then you'll know that what it is. Other words which are worthy of note. There are some numbers in this dictation. Whilst it is usual to write numbers as digits during the dictation, you must remember to write them in words in the transcription because they count as separate words when you are deciding whether or not you have the correct number of words in your whole transcription. So, for example, 41 would be 2 words. 40, F-O-R-T-Y, 1, O-N-E. But they would only count as 1 if you wrote the figure 4 followed by a figure 1 in your transcription. Therefore, if you want to make sure that you've got all the words down, then it's crucial that you write out the numbers in words. As I've said before, it's perfectly okay in your shorthand note, but it's better to write out the words in the transcription. Now, some of the numbers here in this passage are followed by %. You may ask yourself, is this correct as 1 word or 2? Well, the answer is that it is correct both ways. 2 words are most common in Britain and Canada, while 1 word is more common in the USA. NCTJ passages count % as 2 words, but neither presentation would be penalised. There are 20 special outlines here, and I've included some of the very, very common words too, because you would be surprised at how many people write words like from in full with an F, an R and an M instead of writing the special outline. So see how many of these 20 you can record correctly and check on your screen later. Ready? And, of, very, city, from, important, advantage, together, particular, arrangement, recent, companies, commerce, number, experience, different, difference, public, business, permanent.